I'm a recovering people pleaser. And if you've read my book, then you know the story behind it. I'm a recovering people pleaser. Struggled with people pleasing a lot, struggled with an identity crisis a lot. So you find that because of the issues and the internal wounds that I had, I would be I would be such an accommodative person. By accommodative, I mean I would allow certain people in my life and in my space because I want to hold on to them, and I don't want to lose them, and I don't want to be, them to cast me away or separate from them. And, because I feel like I belong and I have that sense of belonging when I'm around them, I would accommodate and tolerate a lot of crap. And I'm sorry to just go that direction, but I would tolerate a lot of, oh my God, a lot of dysfunction. I realized there were people I was connected to, not because we had the same goals in life, but because we had the same trauma, the same childhood trauma. So, trauma bonding and all that science behind it. You find that your friends, and I slowly, with time and with God, I've gotten to a place where now I'm questioning the people around me. I'm like, why are we connected? Why are we in the same, why are you in my space? Why are we friends? If we identify as friends, why are you my friend? Are you my friend because there's an emotional need that I'm feeding, or you're feeding an emotional need? Is there a wound that I have that is a source of connection for both of us? Are we sharing the same? Are we friends because we share the same wounds? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being with friends with people who have gone through what you've gone through. The only difference is be friends with people who are actually doing the work. As you're doing the work, they're also doing the work, so that you're not connected based on that wound. Because if you're connected based on that wound, it means that your conversations are just fueling and feeding that wound instead of healing. Hi and welcome back to Mondays with Kamande. This is Kamande Esther, back with another video. Cheers to being consistent. Hata kama it's the second video. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for making this your home. Thank you for the love and welcoming us back from episode 1, the previous Monday. And thank you for sharing it with your people, with your friends, with your loved ones. And I hope that this also will be a video that edifies you and a video that encourages you. Today's video is a story time, and I love story times. I really don't know why, but I love story times, and I love sharing story times with you, just to share things that I'm learning, story times based on what I have learned or what I'm learning as I'm working with God in each and every season that I'm in. Some story times are from a current season. Some story times are from things like when I'm thinking about things that I've gone through. Anyway, today's video is a story time, but also an encouragement to someone, and whoever this is for, I really don't know, but it's for me as well, and for someone else and another person that I know. I was thinking about how God puts us through the fire, and I wanted to encourage someone who feels this video is for these types of people. One, you're probably in the middle of the fire. By fire here, I mean you're in a season where you feel like zile mapito unapitia, the process that God is taking you through feels like a fire, like you're in the middle of a fire. So you're probably in the middle of that fire. This video is for you. This video is for someone who has just come out of a fire and you're still trying to, get your head around, hey, what did I just go through? The way you come out of a storm and you're like, hey, what was that? So this is for you as well. This is for someone who you're not in the fire, you're not coming from a fire season, but it's to prepare you for a season of, like a fire season that you're going to get into. And I'm not trying to scare you, and I'm not trying to be, to dampen on your happy season. Please, by all means, enjoy it. But just like Jesus assured us in the Bible, tough seasons are going to come. We're always going to go through tough seasons. And some of the seasons that we go through, we keep asking ourselves, why are we going through these seasons? And sometimes we tend to ask God, why are you allowing us to go through these seasons? There are certain seasons that are really difficult that we get into, maybe because of our own decisions. You've made a series of decisions that have led you to where you are right now, and there's no shame for that. We all make mistakes, and we all make decisions that in the moment we think are good decisions, but they lead us in a different path. And sometimes, again, difficult seasons and difficult situations, we find ourselves in difficult seasons or seasons that feel difficult because God has placed us in them. And that's what I want to talk about today. And most times when you're growing up, if you grew up like the way I grew up, we were always told in school, soma kwa bidii because life itakufunza. And we know that you've had that proverb, Swahili proverb, that says asiyefunzwa na mamaye hufunzwa na ulimwengu. Now there are several schools of life that we go through, and it all depends on the one you enroll into. If you enroll in life, the world school of life, then you will experience lessons and seasons the way the world wants you to experience it. If you're in God, trust me, there's something called the school of the Holy Spirit, and it's a school you cannot avoid. If you're a Christian, if you're a believer, if you're thinking about doing life with God intentionally, you must go through the school of the Holy Spirit. And there's a unit, there's a lesson, there's a class in the school of the Holy Spirit where you go through the fire. And those are the people that I want to talk to today. Those are the people I want to minister to today, because God has ministered to me in this particular area. And I wanted to share that form of that revelation on video. And I had thought of doing just a small video, a short video, for TikTok or as a reel on Instagram. But then I figured, you know what? See, we're back on YouTube. Let's dig into it. Let's just explore everything that God was helping me understand. And this story time was triggered, or this video was triggered by a situation I was in recently. I was at a certain function, I found myself in a function or at an event, and it was business related, and it was also a social event. And for the introverted people like myself, you know that we have just a limited number of events that we can attend, and this is just one of those that I could not miss attending. And so I got to this event, and certain things were happening. There were several things that happened in that function, in that event. And when I look back at who I was before this year, or like the me that I used to be, there were certain reactions that there were certain ways I would have reacted in that event that I did not react. You know the way you can be somewhere and someone is intentionally trying to offend you. Someone is really getting on your nerves. And the me that I was before this school of the Holy Spirit, the me that I was would have really reacted in a very choleric, firm, not rude, but I would have reacted in a way that enyewe this person would have known, whoa, tumekanyanga laini za kamande vibaya sana. But I found myself being really patient with the person, and I started observing my life, and I started looking at how I was reacting in certain situations or how I've been reacting to situations that I'm finding myself in. Situations that are supposed to provoke or maybe make me bitter are not making me bitter anymore. I'm not reacting with bitterness. I'm not reacting impatiently. I'm more patient with people. I am showing up in a different way for people or in situations. And I was just looking back, and I was asking the Holy Spirit, why am I not reacting the way like huyu mtu amenikasirisha? God, you've seen what they've done. You've seen them trying to offend me. They are really out to offend me. They are harvesting. They're trying to trigger a reaction from me. They're trying to plant. They're really trying to get on my nerves. And I was asking the Holy Spirit, hey, honey, what's happening? Am I the one who's become really soft? Nimekuwa softy? Ama what's happening? And the Holy Spirit was like, apana, remember when I took you through this and this season, or this and this situation, and I allowed you to go through this fire? The fire produced this version of you. And I started thinking about the version of myself that I am today. And I was even looking at myself on content and looking through the videos that I've been doing, and I was remembering how nervous I'd get and how anxious I'd get when I was going for the recordings. I was thinking about how I was dealing with people even in my career. And I just realized by the way I've become a different version of myself, and I like this version better. Not that I was a bad person, but I'm just looking at the things that I'm overlooking right now, and the things that don't really move me right now, while sources of me, they were real triggers. They were triggers for me in a different version of myself. And then I found myself, I went to a different other function, and I was just looking at the people I was with at that time. And these are people that I've known for a long time, and these are people that you would expect your character and their character to be the same, because you've probably come from the same neighborhood, you've been brought up in the same background, from the same background. And I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at their life choices and how they're behaving and reacting, and their character right now, and who I am right now. And I could see and I could tell there's a disconnect. There's a huge gap. It's like, they're going towards Mombasa, and I'm going towards a different direction. And I was just observing, and I was looking through the relationships around me, the people around me, the nature of the people around me, and I was looking at who I am right now, and I was looking at the things and the way I make decisions right now, and I was looking at, I was really having an introspective moment, looking at who I am today. And I was asking God, and I was trying to attribute it. I was wondering what or how to attribute this change, or who to attribute it to. And I just sat down, and God was just bringing up the lessons He has taken, the classes He has taken me through. And each and every class He has taken me through has not been an easy class. It has been a class where I felt like I was in the middle of a fire. And I just sat down, and I was just thanking God. Have you ever thanked God? Like, you're thanking God for taking you through the fire. You're thanking God for seasons of pain, seasons of brokenness. Because I was just, I remember I was talking to my mom, and I was telling her how nowadays there are certain things financially that don't really move me. There was a time when I was really fixed on buying a certain brand, or like, it's just the mundane things I'm sharing with you guys. Like, such an example, like you go to the supermarket and you're fixed on buying a specific brand because at that time, you're not on a budget. And then now here comes a season of your life where you don't even have that budget. You don't have the finances to be you don't have the money, the luxury of choosing what brand to buy. You go and ile tishu unapata ndo unanunua, mafuta unapata ndo unanunua. The way the economic environment and atmosphere has just changed. And I remember there was a time when, if I don't have the money to buy certain things the way I want to buy them, if I don't have the money to go to a certain place the way I want to, a good example, I love reading, I love books. And I remember there was a season in my life, there was a version of myself where I'd buy books, I'd buy a lot of books. And then now here comes a season of your life, you don't have the money or the resources, or you don't have that flexibility in your finances to buy books as frequent as you would want to buy. And because that for me was a guilty pleasure and a source of comfort and a nice feeling where, I'd buy a book to congratulate myself for maybe finishing one book. I'd buy a book for myself if I've achieved something, or if I'm feeling really low and sad, I'd buy a book. So now here comes a season of your life where now you don't have that flexibility in your finances. You're probably working on a certain project, or you're working on something, or you don't have the money, and so you don't have that flexibility to just wake up, go to a bookshop and buy books. And I remember there was a time when, if I didn't have enough money or enough resources to do something, I'd feel bad, I'd start feeling sad, I'd start complaining. Actually, I'd really complain. Or if I need to attend something or go somewhere, the way, I don't know who conditioned our minds as women, that if you're going for an event, whatever event you're going to, you need a new outfit. So I would be, like that mindset. I would find myself, oh, I need to buy a new outfit for a certain event, or or we have something in church, so I need to buy a new outfit. So now here comes life, and life happens, and now you don't have the flexibility to buy new outfits for every new event you're going to. And I remember there was a time that version of me would have been really sad. I'd show up for that event feeling incomplete, feeling sad, feeling, I'd complain, I'd murmur a lot when I'm praying. I'd just be murmuring and telling God, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you not meeting my needs? Like I'd throw a proper tantrum, spiritual tantrum. That's one example. Another example would be even in like spiritual, like internal, emotional growth that I've realized. You find that you're in a season or you're with people in your life, and kitambo I'm a recovering people pleaser. And if you've read my book, then you know the story behind it. I'm a recovering people pleaser. Struggled with people pleasing a lot, struggled with an identity crisis a lot. So you find that because of the issues and the internal wounds that I had, I would be such an accommodative person. By accommodative, I mean I would allow certain people in my life and in my space because I want to hold on to them, and I don't want to lose them, and I don't want to be, them to cast me away or separate from them. And, because I feel like I belong and I have that sense of belonging when I'm around them, I would accommodate and tolerate a lot of crap. And I'm sorry to just go that direction, but I would tolerate a lot of, oh my God, a lot of dysfunction. I realized there were people I was connected to, not because we had the same goals in life, but because we had the same trauma, the same childhood trauma. So, trauma bonding and all that science behind it. You find that your friends, and I slowly, with time and with God, I've gotten to a place where now I'm questioning the people around me. I'm like, why are we connected? Why are we in the same, why are you in my space? Why are we friends? If we identify as friends, why are you my friend? Are you my friend because there's an emotional need that I'm feeding, or you're feeding an emotional need? Is there a wound that I have that is a source of connection for both of us? Are we sharing the same? Are we friends because we share the same wounds? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being with friends with people who have gone through what you've gone through. The only difference is be friends with people who are actually doing the work. As you're doing the work, they're also doing the work, so that you're not connected based on that wound. Because if you're connected based on that wound, it means that your conversations are just fueling and feeding that wound instead of healing. So if your friends, if the people around you are people who've gone through abuse as well, the same way you've gone out through abuse, and you're not whole and you're not healing, the conversations that you're having are not conversations that are healing that wound. The conversations that are just making the wound even worse. And I started realizing, oh my God, I have so many people in my life. Okay, they're not many people, but I had people in my life that I was connected to based on that. And the conversations were not healthy. You find that when you're with this person, you leave the conversation, or you leave there, when you go your separate ways, you're feeling worse than you were when you were with them. And kitambo, the version of me that I was previously, would tolerate that. So I would tolerate that. I'd tolerate such people, such connections, and then I'd go do the self-work later. Like after you've spent time with them, now you go back home, and then now you're sitting, you'll pray about it, talk about it, like do a lot of work to undo the damage they've done just from a 2-hour conversation with them. And then now you go back home and you're spending 4 hours and 5 hours, and your entire day is ruined. Your mood is ruined. Your spirit man is grieving, and you're like, why did I even go to sit with that person? But because you don't have the courage to separate yourself from them, now you're here, and now you're having to do the work again. And then now in 2 days or 3 days again, you're meeting with the same person again, and that cycle. So recently I just sat back and I was like, I've gotten to a place where I'm really confident about not cutting people off, but creating boundaries with people, creating boundaries around myself, creating boundaries with the people I'm associating myself with, whether it's someone who's in my inner circle, whether it's someone who is like in a business association. I'm finding that I'm really firm about the boundaries I'm creating. I'm intentional about the conversations I'm having. I am intentional about the boundaries, the people that I'm allowing. You know, the way we talk about, and I'm very big on qualifying associations. It's not everyone that you're going to call a friend. There are certain people who are just in your life because of, you know, the business that you do together. You're connected because of business. You're connected because of the work environment you're in. You're connected because of you attend the same church. So by the time you're calling someone a friend, and you're allowing them into your most holy of holies space, be careful that there are people who've earned that. It's people that you can trust with that part of your life. Certain people are just good for the outer court. Other people are just good for the inner court. You know, the way the temple in the Bible, we are told outer court, inner court, holy of holies. So the same way, that's how I look at my life. That's how I look at, I have an outer court, I have an inner court, and I have the holy, the most holy of the most sensitive parts of you. And a previous version of myself was the version that would allow just anyone to be in that holy of holy parts of my life. And God has helped me, and it was now God helping me to understand that transition and the transformation and the change has not been coincidental. It has not been waking up one day and then now you have the strength to say, Apana, I'm not going to have this conversation with you. I'm not going to be having these conversations with you, or I don't even want you in my space. You know, that boldness and that courage and that resolve, that having that firmness to make those decisions in your life does not happen when you go to bed and then you wake up. It takes God. It has taken God. And I was just looking at God, and I was just identifying all these changes, and I realized that I've gotten to a place where I'm telling God nowadays, God, if it works out the way I want it to work out, it's okay. But if it doesn't work out the way I want it to work out, God, it's still okay. I am still going to serve you. I've gotten to that place with you as God, the place of no return, the place where I don't have another option, and I don't want to live my life in a way that shows I have another option or another God. I have just you. And whether I have all the money in the world, whether I have a thriving career, whether I have a thriving platform on YouTube or online, it really does not matter. Whether I have 2 close friends or 3 close friends, God, it does not matter. What matters right now is, how is my walk with you? You know, I sat back and I was looking at the way that change and that transformation, and I was realizing how God has taken me through lessons of consecration, learning what being consecrated means and how it looks like, understanding that when you're walking with God, there are certain certain ways consecration. There's a way that God consecrates you for himself based on what he wants you to do. And there are certain things he will tell you not to be doing. You know, like he will tell you, oh, don't be on social media past 10 a.m. or past 10 p.m. or, you know, it's those little things that we think God is just saying, but they're just forms of consecration. And I was learning about consecration. I was learning about surrender. I was learning about how God puts you through the fire. And when you're going through that fire, when you're going through that tough season, when you're going through that season of wilderness where you don't have a job, where you're going through that season where you're waiting on God maybe to get married, you're waiting on God for a career breakthrough, a business breakthrough, a financial breakthrough, you're waiting on God, and sometimes the fire can look like an illness. You're sick, you have a certain condition, you're trusting in God to heal you, and you're going through all these seasons, difficult seasons, but it's God allowing you to go through them because he's using those seasons as fire to purify you and to make you into a version of yourself that you've never met, you've never imagined. There's a portion in the Bible where God is likened, he's likened, or the vision that God gave in the Bible is him as a blacksmith, or him as I think it's a blacksmith, the people who purify and refine gold. And I remember reading a study. There was someone who was writing a commentary on that particular verse in the Bible, and the person writing was saying they actually did the research. They went and did a research on what it means to purify gold. And the blacksmith was explaining that if you're the one now as a blacksmith, you're refining, the fire has to be a certain temperature. So you have to be there regulating the temperature. You're the one holding the gold. You're getting this gold from the ground, in its most impure form, and it has to go through the fire. And the reason it goes through the fire is so that the impurities can be removed, and for it to become strong, and for it to become pure, just to bring and refine it into its purest form. And I was just reading that and understanding that when we're going through difficult seasons, sometimes we feel like God has abandoned us, like amekurusha kwa moto, and then he has gone on vacation. He's out there just living his best life. But when you really sit back and understand what it means to be refined by God, and you understand when he's taking you through the fire, you tend to, he reveals to you that he's been with you in that fire. He's the one actually holding you in that fire, to make sure that that fire does not consume you, to make sure that that fire serves its purpose, which is to remove aspects or traits or character traits in you that don't reflect who he is. And I remember reading in that commentary, and I'm sure most of you have read it, but the blacksmith was saying that the time now when he knows, if he wants to know that the gold is now ready, it's when he has seen his own reflection in the gold that he's refining. And that's the thing with God. Sometimes we go through things and we go through situations that feel difficult to go through, but I wanted to encourage someone that whatever you're going through it's God's way of ensuring that you eventually, and at the end of it all, you will become a reflection of who he is. There's no way you're going to say that you're a child of God, but you're living a life that does not reflect God. If God is love and you're living a life that is full of hatred and bitterness, that is not God. You're not reflecting God. If one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit is humility, and you're living a prideful life, then there's no way you can say that you're reflecting God. And pride has been one of the things that God has worked in my life, and it's a lesson every one of us goes through. There's so much pride in us, and sometimes it does not look like pride. And I know the many lessons and the many classes that I've gone through with God to help me deal with pride, to help me deal with fear, because most of us, fear has been holding us back for such a long time. And so many situations that God is going to allow you to go through are going to be painful situations. But when you're on the other side of the fire, you will realize that God was using that fire to remove things in you, and situations and wounds and personality issues in you that were really hindering you from becoming the original, the purest form of yourself that you can be. And I was not making this video to shame anyone or to just, position myself as someone who's really complete. It's just that I was just sitting back. It's the way you can be in class and you're revising lessons that you've learned and doing with your classmates. And I was even having these conversations with close friends of mine, and we were just saying, oh God, thank you for the fire. Thank you that I went through that season of joblessness. It taught me how to depend on you. Thank you for allowing me to go through that illness. Thank you for healing me. But when I was going through that illness, God, I learned who you are as a healer. Thank you for shutting and closing those doors, because that's another thing I noticed. This year I have encountered so many, and it's not just this year, but just the past, I know we're in March, ending March, but I've gone through so many no's. Have you, when you're in entrepreneurship now, which is the path and the career path that I've taken, you will go through so many no's. And one of the things that I struggled with was feel that sense of rejection. And I would get, the way you get rejection emails, oh, we are pleased, we regret to inform you that you did not pass this interview. We regret to inform you that your proposal did not succeed. So when I was in my career, employment, in terms of career, I would get rejections, but they were not as difficult to handle as now when you're in entrepreneurship and you're not employed by anyone else, and you're making pitches and sending pitches and sending proposals and pitching and approaching clients and putting yourself out there, and then you get rejected. It has been a class that has really character developed me, and understanding that you can get and receive no's from people outside and receive so many no's, but it doesn't affect your identity, it doesn't affect who you are as a person. That transformation and that transition has been such a beautiful thing to witness in my life. I would get rejected, I would get those no's, and I would interpret that as being rejected. I would interpret that as, oh, I'm not good enough. I would, you know, the way you are pitching to a client and they say, no, it's not for this service is not for us right now. And I would look at that and I would feel, oh, okay, this means then I'm not good enough for this business. It means I'm not good enough as a consultant in this area. It means I am not good enough. It means I'm not qualified. So the devil would use that and amplify those insecurities in my life. And then recently I just realized I am receiving no's. I'm getting, people are telling me no, but I'm still showing up. I'm still putting myself out there. I've not stopped showing up for my business. I've not stopped showing up for whatever it is that I'm doing. You can tell me, no, that's okay, that's you. It does not work for you, but there's someone else that it's going to work for someone else. And just that transformation and that change in mind. And I was asking God, how did this happen? And God was reminding me that there are so many things He said no to. And for each opportunity that God shut down, in those moments when I was thinking, oh God, hata wewe umeni reject, the way God says no and you're like, okay, then if God you reject me now, who else is going to reject me? And God would allow me to go through that season of throwing a tantrum. And you throw a tantrum, you're like, God, you've said no, you've shut this door, you're the only one who can open this door, but now this door has shut down. And then God takes you and helps you process those emotions and shows you, okay, I told you no because this door is not for you for this particular season. Or I've told you no because if this door opens, it's going to demand a lot from you, and you don't have enough capacity for that. And for me to come to that place of understanding that there's a reason behind why God says no. There's a reason behind why we go through, a series of people saying no or opportunities being shut down, and they actually don't have anything to do with who you are as a person. Just because God has shut down that door does not mean that there's anything wrong with you. It only means it's not for you right now. And it means that when He's saying no, He's redirecting your focus to something else. He's trying to show you that this door was not for you because there's another door for you, number one. Or two, this door is not for you right now because I need to build capacity in you, to build more capacity in you, to equip you more so that you can handle that opportunity when it comes back again. And now looking at it like that, and it takes God to help you process it like that. It takes God for you to have that perspective towards such a season. And that process and those processes that God takes us through, those are what I'm calling the fire. And God will use whatever fire He can find, whatever season He can find, whatever situation He can find, God is going to use it to refine you and to make sure that He has worked on you, so that when you're coming out of that season, you won't have to go back to that class. When, the good thing about the School of the Holy Spirit is that once you go through a class with the Holy Spirit and He's sure that you have learned the lesson and you've passed that lesson, He does not take you back there just for the sake of it. No, He takes you now, He upgrades you and takes you to another class. I know I'm rambling a lot, but the point of this video was to encourage someone who you're in a season where you feel like this fire is too much and God, I cannot withstand this fire. Please endure it. Please endure that fire. It is serving a purpose right now, and it's going to serve a purpose later. Whatever it is that God is working in your life right now may not be evident right now. You may not see it right now, but when eventually the season ends and when eventually He takes you out of the fire and you see and you look at who you are, you're going to look back to that fire and that season of going through a fire, and you're going to be so grateful. If probably you're coming out of that season where you feel like you are in a season where God was had placed you in the midst of a fire and you've just come out of it, I want you to look at it and approach it with a sense of gratitude. Just thank God that you went through that, and I want you to make the most of the version of you that He has produced from that fire. If you're going through this fire, please hold on, hang in there, just hold on to the hand of the refiner. He's the one who's refining you. Hold on to Him. He knows He's going to put the fire in the right and perfect temperature and perfect condition, so you're sure you're not going to be consumed. He's not going to lose you in the fire. You're not going to melt away in the fire. You're not going to be destroyed in the fire. He's going to hold you in that perfect condition, the perfect temperature of that fire. He is producing a version of you that you're going to really love and you're going to be in awe of who you're going to become when you're on this other side, when he takes you out of the fire. If you've not yet gone through, or you're not in a season of, that fire season, when that season finally comes, because it's going to come, please approach it with this mindset. Approach it with a mindset that, okay, this is God and myself going through now another season of being refined. And there's that song by Maverick, The Refiner's Fire. And most of us avoid singing it because it's a song where we are asking God to refine us because he's the refiner. But when you really look at refining and God's refining process from a different perspective, trust me, you're going to enjoy the fire. And when you look at you who has submitted to that process versus someone else who has not submitted to the process, trust me, you're going to really thank God for putting you through the fire. And my encouragement for all of us is to just enjoy the fire. Whether it's the fire you're going through right now or a fire that is going to come later, just enjoy it. It's serving a purpose, and it's going to serve a purpose. And that fire is not going to consume you, because God is the one he's the one behind the whole refining process. And he's a perfect God, and he's the master, and he knows when that fire needs to end, and he knows the perfect temperature that is going to be useful for you. So until next time, please enjoy the fire. And I will be enjoying my own fire because I'm also in that fire season as well. But until we can see each other next time, bye.